we covered some of it yesterday, and we covered the virulent homophobia, and also just the sort of fascist bromance, or whatever you want to call it. I will say on TMBS, we did about a half an hour kind of run through of different elements. So there's a lot going on here, from the assassination of Marielle Franco, who was a hugely important activist in Brazil. Please, everybody, look up and honor her legacy. The cartel that assassinated her is directly, materially connected to the Bolsonaro family from all available evidence. We don't know more than that. And a variety of other things, some of which we'll actually touch on in a couple of minutes. But there is no mistaking the fact. I mean, the fact that Bolsonaro went with Sergio Moro, his also very suspect and questionable and almost certainly corrupt justice minister, which we'll talk about for a couple of minutes, that they were at CIA headquarters, tells me, first of all, that this broader project that began in the Obama era of reversing pink tide governments across Latin America is highly coordinated and directed with linked to U.S. foreign policy. And even things like the political imprisonment of Lula might go above the Brazilian oligarchy and judiciary. And that secondly, even though Brazil's military does not want to engage in Venezuela militarily, there is absolutely a serious appetite in the United States to continue pushing this process. And Bolsonaro, as the stupid fascist stooge he is open to it. This exchange on Fox is, okay, Stuart Varney's an idiot. And it takes a kind of, libertarian from the Cato Institute not to morally object, but to logistically object. But this is actually a microcosm, I think, of exactly the kind of arguments that are taking place in U.S. and Brazilian and Colombian situation rooms right now.
Should we use the CIA? I realize I'm going back to the 1950s or something, but why not? Why not?
Well, first of all, you're going back to always. The CIA has been involved in coups across the globe, conservatively over 59 in Latin America, from the 50s through the attempted coup in 2002 in Venezuela, the 2009 coup, which we backed in Honduras, and then if you broadened out from CIA, the Justice Department's role in the judicial and political coup that's taken place targeting the Workers' Party in Brazil. But just really zone in on that, just at face value for a second. I'm going back to the 50s when we deposed a social democrat, Jacob Arbenz, in Guatemala because he would slightly cut down on the profits of United Fruit. We deposed him and set off a mass killing wave, of which was echoed actually in the 1980s when the Reagan administration and the CIA literally supported an actual genocide in Guatemala. So I guess at least it's good that Stewart knows what he's calling forth.
Should we use the CIA? I realize I'm going back to the 1950s or something, but why not? Why not? The guy is a corrupt socialist dictator. He's killing his own people in the street. Why can't we have the CIA have a quiet word with a couple of generals? Get them out the country. Why not?
Well, if it was that simple, it'd be nice to do. The challenge, of course, is who replaces him. We can't be certain that whatever follows him is going to be something better. The question is, how can we make it easier for the people there to overthrow him? What we're doing now, I think, has had extraordinary success of building international support. Other Latin American countries are actually willing to push on this. We need to keep this up.
So what's interesting there is that actually that is the strategy that we've been doing going back to Bush through Obama and accelerated under Trump, which is try to make the situation there so miserable that the people will overthrow him. That is not happening. And I say this as somebody, again, people have a real difficulty with cognitive dissonance. The Maduro government is absolutely engaged in abuses, 100%. There are also structural problems in Venezuela that implicate the military that existed through Chavez and they existed before Chavez. There are institutional realities in countries that if you don't fundamentally change, they persist. And fundamentally changing them is basically impossible, which ironically most, credulous moderates who all of a sudden support a coup in Venezuela will tell you about the United States. Sometimes they have some defenses of people like Obama that I disagree with, but they're actually somewhat institutionally correct. We'll apply some of that same measured thinking to completely reordering the Venezuelan government. So there's real problems in Venezuela, some of which are self-created by the government, and the U.S. has squeezed and attempted to foment a coup, to instigate a coup there for at least a couple of decades under 3 administrations. And there's still a critical mass of Venezuelans, primarily Venezuelans of color, primarily poor Venezuelans who have absolutely benefited from Chavez, and some of those benefits maintained under Maduro, and they would all be totally stripped away and destroyed by some U.S.-backed puppet like Guaido. And also there's others that are just nationalists. Believe it or not, other countries have a right to have a nationalist sentiment, Americans. And there are some people who might actually, there's contingents of people who critically support Maduro because they still believe in the Bolivarian revolution for very justifiable reasons and correct runs. And then there's also people who maybe actually totally loathe Maduro and would love to see him go, but don't want a right-wing U.S.-engineered coup that would almost certainly send the country into even deeper crisis. That guy pointed out, even the libertarian pointed out, that how do you know what replaces him is better? Well, I could tell you from a left perspective, a diplomatic process mediated by people like Mexico and Uruguay and the Vatican might produce something that is more responsive and better. A U.S.-backed coup and military intervention backed with Elliot Abrams orchestrating, if you don't see that will automatically make the situation of Venezuelans infinitely worse and mostly the most poor and the most vulnerable who the Bolivarians have delivered for to some degree, you're delusional. And if you're also interested in things like corruption or the military tie to cartel business, you think that a right-wing U.S.-backed government is going to be the government. Like, if you know anything about Latin American history, you think that the U.S.-backed right-wing government is going to be the ones like, we really got to get out of the cocaine trade. It's not who we are. You, again, are stupid or delusional.
Hello.
Hello. Thank you, Dennis Prager.